Cuban dictator Fidel Castro loved chess, and when he wasn't almost ending the world due to the Cuban Missile Crisis, he was playing chess. Although not all of them were as beautiful and as brilliant as some of the famous historical games you may have seen. Here's an example of a very interesting game he played in Havana back in 1966. So Castro playing with the black pieces in the Cuban capital against Filiberto Terrazas. Fidel Castro, when I put his name in, it gave him this rating of 1812. I'm not sure it's accurate, maybe later in his chess career. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we have e4, e5, great start from Castro, theoretical. And then we have the King's Gambit, so you know it's going to be an absolute corker of a game when you see this come out. I've never seen a boring King's Gambit game in my life. So we have e takes f4, Castro obliges the best move, and then we see knight to f3. This is trying to deny the queen h4 check, which can be a bit nasty if you have the white pieces. So then we see bishop to d6. Bit of a strange move here. Now, you don't see this very often, but it's a clear idea behind it. He wants to get a piece out and defend his pawn on f4. So not a horrible move, but definitely this isn't theory. I think theory now is to play g5 and try and hang on to the pawn that way. Of course, you can't take because the queen defend. d4. Filiberto Terrazas, obviously quite a good player. He decides to grab the entire center. Principal player, can't argue with this. Also threatening a move such as e5 to sort of almost pen the bishop out of the game. So we see h6 by Castro. I'm not sure what he's going for here. I guess he's trying to stop the knight coming in, but it's just not a great move. It doesn't show a very good understanding of the position at play here. It's sort of out of touch with the position. And of course, we see e4, e5. Obviously quite a strong player, his opponent. So Castro decides to move the bishop out of the way. Probably should have just gone back to e7, but just tries to go bishop to b4 check. Now, this isn't a great move, because you say, well, he has to block with his knight, and his knight is pinned. But no, you can just move the pawn, and your bishop has to go back. And you look a bit silly. This bishop is very much out of the game. It's behind the pawn chain. Connect 4. So not what you want to see if you're a dark square bishop when all these pawns are on dark squares. I mean, you have something to attack, but you're never going to break through. As bishop takes f4, developing a piece, taking the pawn. White's position is absolutely immaculate. So g5, Castro sort of strikes back, hitting the bishop, gaining a little bit of space on the king side, but his position is already so bad due to this spatial dominance from the white. So you see bishop to g3, keeping the bishop active, sort of on diagonal, targeting what could be a weak pawn. Then we see queen to e7. Castro now using the pinning this pawn to the king, because let's face it, it's not going to be castled too quickly. And this pawn makes it a little bit weaker, especially when the dark square bishop is still in the game, because this diagonal could be a problem. But again, this pawn chain is very strong, so love to see what happens. Bishop to e2 played, now blocking the x-ray of this queen through the pawn. So the queen, if that pawn moved, it would be checked. So could be some tactics arising, wants to block that off and make sure that's not an issue. So we see d6 by Castro, wants to open this up, wants to attack with his basically his only really developed piece, because this bishop isn't doing much over here. So e takes d6, c takes d6. Now Castro, I mean, he's opened the position up, but this is just an isolated pawn. It's very weak and it's immediately getting targeted. Say you want to move this queen out anywhere, you're going to drop this pawn and you're not going to be very happy. So queen a4 check, played by Filiberto, decides to check the white king. Not a great move, to be honest. He can easily parry to a move like bishop to d7 or knight to c6 to getting another piece in the game. And this queen, what is it doing into the board? I mean, just trying to fork the piece, so has to play knight to c6. Can't play bishop to d7, obviously. So knight to c6 played, defending the bishop. And then we see d5. Actually, now we see the idea of the move is to pin and then attack the pinned piece. You know what Levy always says? PP on the PP. Put pressure on the pinned piece. So d5, this knight is attacked. It's pinned, it can't move. What's it going to do? Bishop to d8, decides to retreat the bishop because knight's pinned anyway. D takes c6, captures the knight, and then b5. Castro decides to sacrifice the pawn so he gets to play with his rook and try and win this pawn back. So we see queen takes b5, a6, gets the queen out of there, and then just queen to a4, retreating, keeping the idea of this check on this diagonal. Then we see g4 by Castro. Again, like, it's very disjointed play, you know. Bit of play over here, bit of play over here. I mean, I guess he can't get his rook in the game yet because that pawn hangs, but it's just, what is he doing? I mean, this guy's not 1800, clearly. I don't know what this rating is, to be honest. So see g4, because of that, knight has to move. Nope. Pawn check. Pawn to c7, checking the king. Now this bishop is attacked, and this pawn is just dangerously close to queening. We see bishop c7, blocking the check, hits the queen, and then for some reason, Filiberto Terrazas decides to just queen his pawn. I don't know why he chose to do this. I think he'd probably just be better off. I guess he just thought he's going to lose the pawn anyway because to move your queen and lose the pawn. But interesting, get a queen on the board. 2 queens is kind of funny, to be fair. So let me see, rook takes c8, takes that queen. Queen to d4. Now, he's actually threatening the rook in the corner. So then Castro takes the knight. Captures. So g takes f3. Castro captures back the knight. Material is now equal in this dynamic position. But the thing is, his rook in the corner is hanging. Captures the rook. but Filiberto has fallen right into Castro's trap. The communist is like a sneaky trick in this position, which you might have spotted. That square is defended. Queen takes e2. Checkmate on the white king, still in the centre of the board. And what I say, very interesting game from Fidel Castro himself, the Cuban dictator. So if you want more videos like this, I've got some other interesting games on my channel. Click here, should be one. YouTube thinks you're going to like the best, so probably good to give that one a watch. And I'll see you guys in the next one.